Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this wonderful event organized by SaaS Insider. I'm sure it has been a very informative 2 days, and this is the last leg and the finale for the event. I'm glad to be amongst your presence and hoping to give you a lot of insights into how we go about setting up a new regional office, and that is going to be our topic for today. Just to introduce myself, I'm Melvin Moraes. I handle the partnerships at Connect Insights, which is a social listening and analytics platform. And with me, I have today Mr. Sreelesh Pillai, who is the GM for Freshworks in Australia. And I will let him introduce himself. Sreelesh, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Melvin. Thank you, everyone, for joining the session. This is Sreelesh. I go with Sri. It's just so much more easier here in Australia. So I've been with Freshworks for the past 10 years. Very fortunate to have joined them early on. And I took care of the digital customer acquisition, digital marketing for Freshworks when it was Freshdesk. And then 5 years later, I got into the sales world and came down here to Sydney, Australia to set up office here in the Sydney office.
All right. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sri, for that quick introduction. And I will ensure that I call you Sri so that it's easier for everybody. All right.
Thanks, Melvin.
Okay. So without further ado, I think we'll dive right into the topic. We have some questions lined up, Sri, for you so that we can pick your brains and from your experience that you've gained with Freshworks, understand and help startups and companies who are planning to diversify and expand, how they can go about it. All right. So quickly, I will start a poll. Just give me a minute. Meanwhile, Sri, the first question for you is, can you hear me, Sri?
Yes.
So, at what stage can a business decide that they should, open a regional office? Is it the startup phase or the maturity phase or the growth phase? And if you can relate it to Freshworks, like when did you all decide and what was the moment when you all decided to go into and take the plunge? So if you could help us with that, your experience.
Sure. I think really it's obviously going to be different for different organizations, but here's me transparently sharing how it was with Freshworks, right? Mm-hmm. So I think we had a good set of customers. When I joined, it was we already had 65 paying customers, right? And 2,000 odd in terms of MRR. So 2012 is 25,000 is the ARR, right? So at that time, it was just about acquiring customers wherever we saw things were working, right? Mm-hmm. So through digital means, right? And then I think I'll use the quote by some prominent investor, or maybe it was Girish himself, okay. When an investor likes a company, they will find you, they will fund you, right? So just like that, when you have done quite some GTM, you will find from your customers, mm-hmm. you will find them asking, hey, do you have an office here? Or, do you have partners who work in this country, in this region, right? Or do you provide implementation services, right? So when such questions come up from your customers, that's quite a signal for you to be looking into your not just customer base, but mm-hmm. also your prospect base, people who are not yet your customers. Right. Why are they not yet your customers? It's as equal a question as what you're hearing from your customer support teams, right? Mm-hmm. So we realized that we were getting a few enterprise customers. As an example, Burger King was a customer even before we set up our US offices. Oh, right? Nice. So and when in fact Burger King also went big. Back in the day, 50 seats was big for us, right? Mm-hmm. So the event went big without us having the US office. But slowly, we started realizing that, if we were there in person, that possible 50 would have been a 500 seat opportunity, right? So I think when we decided that we've got quite some runs on the board and now we want to scale up, we want to go even bigger, that's when we started looking at these international offices, of which obviously the US office came first. the London office came next, and then the Australian office came next. So I think we were a good $5 million in terms of ARR before we actually set up our London office and then went into the Australian office. So I'd say back to your question, really from a scale-up perspective, that's when you want to be thinking regional offices.
All right. So basically, when we're talking about growth, and that's when regional office would be the best time to diversify into. All right. On that lines, I've run a poll. If you can see it on your screen, has your SaaS business crossed any of the below? And the options are 200 plus paying customers, $1 million in ARR, or both of the above. Please feel free to choose your option and give us a perspective of where you are at this moment.
Yeah, I think this is an important question, Meldon, because once we see the responses to this poll, I can always switch back, whether it's the startup mode we need to be further discussing about, or maybe the scale up mode or after that. Yeah. So audience, please, poll away.
Yeah. We'll wait for that. Meanwhile, we will go about with the next question, Sri. I think that will also give some perspective to our audience, since mostly people would be wanting to understand more about the nuances of setting up regional offices. So, what would be the major decisions or challenges you've come across while setting up regional offices?
Yeah, so I think it again, always customer first. So there's this quote I recently got, right? So when your mind is with the customer first, then those customers will last, right? So think about the customer first, and those customers will just last across. And it's funny that Freshworks' own line is customer for life, right? So we're customer for life software. So anyway, where I'm going with this is, first, the having your regional office, you speak to as many customers in person as possible, right? You let them know that you're there, right? And you hear from them, and that's when you slowly start realizing things. Like, as an example, so here's me, not really from a thought leader perspective. I'm just sharing what Freshworks went through, what I went through, right? So as I met these customers, they told me, hey, Sri, we need to have Australian dollar currency payment options, right? So back in the day, we just had USD, right? And slowly we had customers say, Sri, do you have a local data center where, we could probably host, maybe consumer data in a more confident way, right? So, and slowly, when we went to events, we even heard from government organizations who were impressed with our solutions, but they had the same question event after event. Do you have your local data center, right? So I think the biggest thing is really knowing what your customers want. And at that point in time, things like currency, things like I said, the data center, things like professional service. Will your team come to my office, and implement for me or train my people for me, right? So I think, first of all, hear from your customers. And if I was to go back to my path, one of the biggest decisions, I think your question is about decisions, isn't it?
Yes.
So is where you're going to set up office, right? So again, I'll take this quote. I think it's by Bill Gates or somebody, right? Where they say, don't think that money is the end all, right? But believe that only after you've had enough money, right? So, I used to think that, you can have your office anywhere, but to be honest, after setting up office in 12 kilometers away from the city. When we began, we set up 12 kilometers away from the city. I lost a good number of quality hires as a result of that. People said, "Oh, you're quite far away. I would really want it. I would really want to join if you were there in the city, right?"
Okay.
So, one of the reasons why I chose that town 12 kilometers away is because Microsoft and Oracle were also having their offices there, right? So, hindsight. You can afford to have an office away from the bustling city if you've got the brand,
right?
We're not Microsoft, Oracle, at least 5-7 years ago, right? So one of the big decisions for me, which with the power of hindsight, I would have done better, is set up offices right there in the city from day one, right? Okay. So we're closer to the majority of customers. We're there in the city. right? And we can hire quality talent that is more confident and conveniently working out of the city. So one of big decisions is that.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is also, again, with the power of hindsight, right? So I started with two executive account executives, right? Now I think every startup out there, right? So go big or go home, right? So I was pretty conservative in the way I wanted to start up. Obviously, also because I'm coming to a new country and setting this up, right? But I strongly feel, if you really need to make a mark or make some form of decisions in terms of customer and market feedback, you need for a minimum 3 or 4 sales folk to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Otherwise, you're not going to collect customer feedback fast enough. You're not going to learn, fail, learn, improve fast enough to make those first 2 years really count for you, right? So two big decisions, but I'd say is knowing where exactly to have your first, but now with COVID, it's all a different thing, isn't it? So that's no more a big decision. The next is really, knowing how to hire, especially in the journey that you are in. Do you want to hire an enterprise account executive, or do you want to hire, the commercial or the mid-market, account executive, depending on how successful you are presently with your product lines? So who to hire, and also which departments to hire. I would, if you've got a set of customers already in region, highly recommend start with account management, where you're working those accounts, you're creating great stories out of them in parallel with your new logo, your new business sales team.
All right. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for that, Sri. And I think you've kind of touched upon or extended it to us the next question, which is what are the routes to scaling a business in a region without an actual office setup? For those who want to don't want to invest yet, and they are still exploring to expand their business. So what would be those routes to consider?
Yeah, there are plenty, right? So digital comes first. I'm assuming we're all masters of the digital trade now, right? But Freshworks as a company, we've also done pretty good in the sense, even headquartered out of the US and also India, we're able to sell big ticket size deals into, let's say, Singapore, Malaysia, right? So there are definitely other routes as well, right? So there are partner routes, right? There are temporary or contract hires that you can do in certain locations, right? You really don't need to set up office, right? So and now with remote working being very close to the norm, you should explore those routes. Again, when you do explore those routes, think big, right? So don't think one contractor, right? Don't think one partner, right? So you got to go with at least 3-4, go big, right? And that's actually easier now, right? So you're not spending on office space, you're not spending on other, whether it's travel or the other employment benefits that you're giving out. So go bigger, scale faster, learn from the market faster in your first 2 years, and that's really going to set the speed for your business in the region for the next 5-6 years.
Right. Got it. So I also agree that considering the COVID situation and all, I think it would be more better for companies who are just planning to expand might consider going the partner route or any other route before actually having a physical presence in that location. So that's great. And Sri, I think you somewhere touched upon some aspects of the next question. But I'll still, go ahead and ask that because we can discuss that more in detail. So, how do you decide which aspects, sales, marketing, pre-sales, core development, implementation, customer service, etc. So various aspects of your business should be a part locally at the new regional office, right? If you can just delve into that a little bit.
Yeah. So with an existing group of customers in the region, again, highly recommended, we start with account management functions. Mm-hmm. And the question there also picks up, how what kind of a staffing, strategy do you need to employ, right? Whether it is completely locally sourced, or do you want to have people from the mothership also come in, right? Not just not just for their past expertise in the existing product lines, also for their knowledge of the company's business line, also for their knowledge of the culture, right? So you don't need all of that. It's really a great, in Girish's words, the biryani is made out of many ingredients, right?
True.
It's culture, it's product expertise, it's the subject matter expertise, and it's local expertise, right? So you really need to be opening up to yourself, right? So you shouldn't be thinking, oh, I want to hire only local, or hey, I want to bring up everyone from the mothership. So when you look at it that way, and when you're open about it that way, then you've got a real great biryani that you're going to try and cook. And the beauty of it is, it is very much seen even in your customers' environment, right? So when they realize, they themselves, they're smart, they know that they probably need to reach out to X person if they want to get Y done, right? So when we provide a plethora of dishes in the buffet, the customer does know how to get their work done fast. So what we did here is, we started with sales. We hired locally. Then we started with pre-sales. Again, we hired locally. So there were times when we had our pre-sales individuals, sit out of Chennai, do demos, while our salespeople sat with their customers, right? So we did win a few deals. We did not win a few, right? So then we decided to have pre-sales here. And slowly, I think with the power of hindsight, I would have had an account manager and a customer success team probably earlier on, right? Because when I came down to Australia, we already had a good 100 paying customers, of which some big brands were already customers. So I would invest equally, having account management as well as customer success done out of the region, and these functions, because it's already, the function is already meeting with customers who know about our products. So those functions you could bring out from the mothership, right? Because they want quicker help faster, and for you to hire locally, it might just take some time to serve your customers, because your customers know your products, right? And so some of that from the mothership in terms of staffing would be useful.
Awesome. All right. That's great, Sri. Thanks a lot for giving insights into that. While we were discussing on that, I just ran a quick poll as to asking the folks around here as to what aspect they are more keen to know about, and giving them 4 options: financial, operational, human resources, and others. And the financial was the topmost choice, actually. 75% of the audience here wanted to know about the financial aspects about setting up a new regional office. So would you be able to give some insights into that aspect as to what we considered while looking at the economics at play while setting up a new office?
Yeah. So there's so much talked about, CAC, the CAC ratio, LTV to CAC, right? So all of that is bread and butter, right? Now, I'm not sure if that question would really entail knowing about whether we set up a subsidiary and then on charge the mothership, the incorporated company.
Yes.
On a cost basis plus a margin. That's what you could do, right? But I'll stick with financial in terms of making it business sense, right? So and that's possibly why I go back and I'm thinking maybe that's also why I had only 2 people on the ground, right? So I did want to ensure that when we have these 2 individuals, we're also seeing the uptake in terms of how we're growing in regions. So the usual ratios of try and get that payback period within, let's say, back in the day we actually had much below 2 years, right? So if you can continue to acquire customers through your local resources within that average payback ratio of the actual region, then is when that you're going the right direction, and then you can double up or maybe spend some more time doing it better before you double up. So for me, the same ratios hold good even when you're doing a regional office, because at the end of it, you're all contributing to the same balance sheet of the mothership.
All right. That's great. Thanks a lot, Sri, for those insights. I think we have just about 5 minutes left. So I will quickly ask the last question, Sri, and then we can dive into Q&A. Mm-hmm. So as an expert in setting up regional offices, especially working with a brand like Freshworks, what would be probably top 3 tips you want to give someone who has decided to set up a regional office?
Okay. I think, customer first, right? Mm-hmm. So that you have those lasting customers, right? So hear from your customers. The signals that tell you that you need an office here is going to be from your customers. Followed then maybe competition, followed then maybe investors, right? So it's always customers first. Your customer will find you and tell you need to be there, right? I think it's from the movie Taken. I'm just now remembering. Yes, it's from the movie Taken. I will find you and kill you. Anyway, so that's one, customer first. Number 2 is really know your angels, right? So when I came here to Australia, in fact, maybe this is an opportunity. So Kim Harris from 2515, we shared workspace with him, right? He linked me to the journalist there. Our first media coverage in Business Insider was through him, right? And then there was David Hall from Hall Chadwick, who helped me set up my all the formalities in terms of the subsidiary, right? So I'd say know your angels, right? And try and keep them aware, abreast of all your developments, and even maybe give them a hand or two as you travel, because your community, your local community starts from the people who helped you set up, right? So keep them very close to you. And then the third one is really, like I said, when you're deciding on the office, do not really look at competition, right? Start with really looking at where the majority of your customers are, where you can hire quality talent, because the quality talent aspect of it just takes your business scaling up to another whole, exponential level. If you get that right, you grow much faster.
Absolutely. In fact, I very much concur with your point of going customer first, because actually that is where the essence of your business lies. That is where the essence of everything that you do lies. And that's a very good advice to all of us. All those companies who are planning to diversify and open new offices, please look at your customers, where they are, and accordingly, go ahead with your plans. So Shri, while we wait for questions to come up, we have opened the floor for questioning. We had done the poll earlier, the first poll, where we had asked our audience, has their business crossed one of the parameters below? So the 2 options were 200 plus paying customers and 1 million in ARR. 100% of our audience has come back saying that they have crossed this 200 plus paying customers. So
that's good. So I think what we were sharing is relevant, right? So they're probably looking at scale up, a scale up audience here. So most happy to continue conversations, and really pay it forward when given the chance.
Absolutely. Okay. While we wait for, I don't see any questions yet. But when I'm going to the chats, I see that a lot of people have really enjoyed your quotes, especially the biryani reference and the one you've quoted from Taken. So I'm glad to see that it's not all work, and she is full of these anecdotes and quotes coming from movies and from food. So I'm sure you're enjoying life to the fullest from all aspects of it. So any last words, Sri, before we wrap this up? Anything that you want to share with the audience, or give some advice?
No, I'm not anyone to give any advice, to be honest, right? So just know, we'll share as transparently as we can. I think that's been Freshworks' way of really going about doing business, as well as giving back to the community. So and I hope we spur even more people to be sharing, and because with whatever is happening out there, things like SaaS Insider, these sessions, they bring us together, right? So it's really the human mind, willpower that is going to keep us together. So Absolutely. First of all, thank you, SaaS Insider, for doing this, sticking to deciding to doing it, even with COVID happening. I think it at least takes our mind away from what's happening out there. And a strong believer of the human mind and power and potential. let's continue, giving back in as many forms as we can and keeping together.
Yes, and I would also like to take this opportunity to thank SaaS Insider and the entire team who have relentlessly, and tirelessly orchestrated this entire event. The last 2 days have been very informative, very educational, even for companies who are starting up to companies who are at different stages of their game right now. And thank you so much. Shri, before we wrap up, there's a very interesting question that has come up. And so Abhi has said that they feel that you're massively inspired by Simon Sinek and would like to know your favorite quote, favorite Simon Sinek quote. So if you can end it on that note.
I think there's no quote that I remember, but it's just the concept, right? The infinity concept, right? So we cross a goal or two, and then we think, what next, right? So we make our family whole with 2 kids, and then we think, what next, right? But there has to be a goal that's setting you to infinity, that you want to set your mind, right? So maybe it's, I want to be known as a person that genuinely helps. Maybe that's setting yourself an infinity goal. Abhi, great to have your question there. So I think every one of us, something I'm inspired with Simon Sinek is setting yourself an infinity goal, right? And if you can align your life to an infinity goal, things are so much easier. You're not celebrating too heavily by hitting the next $1 million, or you're not even too sad for losing that great deal that you could have, right? So at the end, you're aligning yourself to an infinity goal that you're working day in and day out. Everything that you do, you're aligning with that infinity goal. That gives you so much ease of your mind's at ease. Yeah. Right. Thanks, Abhi, for that question.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sri. I think that's a good note to end on, setting an infinity goal. Thank you so much, Sri, for all your valuable insights. I'm sure we all have gained a lot of information from that, and basically help us to, set up or think about how we should go about setting up a new regional office. That was great. Thank you, SaaS Insider, for bringing us all together and having these events. And on that, I would like to end the session. Please stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and have a great weekend ahead. Goodbye.
Thank you, Melvin. Thank you all.